Greetings to you, dear viewers. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is weekly program Future Africa, and I am Fanta Mbelete hosting and producing the program. In our discussion today, we are going to talk about the national dialogue that we stopped last time in the first episode, and we continue from where we stopped. Till the end of our program, stay tuned. Transitional justice is also what Ethiopia is working on. Does it have any contribution for the national dialogue to be conducted nationwide?
Yeah, definitely, it will have a huge contribution. I think we can see the transitional justice alongside this national dialogue, because the very purpose of this national dialogue is to have a new political dispensation. To have a new political dispensation means it will be impossible without achieving transitional justice, because in this process, justice is not, it can be done in its normal way. We need to have a transitional justice in order to achieve transformation. So, as part of the process of conflict transformation, transitional justice is necessary for Ethiopia, because we have conflicts. It's not. We are not new for conflicts. Even the last 2 years, we know what we were in. So there are different, political groups. We cannot deal these kinds of conflicts through just normal process of justice. We need to have transitional justice. So I think we can, the transitional justice can go hand in hand with this process of this National Dialogue Commission. So I think they are still working on that. There are attempts on that. So we will see on how the National Dialogue Commission also ventures on this transitional justice process. So the importance is immense.
In your view, why is extremism and fundamentalism of all sorts, like religious, ethnic, political, etc., increasingly seen in Ethiopia? And what are the causes and what are the remedy for this extremism and fundamentalism?
Yeah, extremism and fundamentalism are, part of our political culture. As we have already mentioned, people are, extremists. There are extremist political voices. There are, as I already mentioned, two political forces in Ethiopia, major, not the only forces around, but we have, mainly two political forces. One, centrifugal forces. We can call them forces of diversity. And there are also centripetal forces. We can call them, centrist forces. So in both sides, due to the political culture that we have, we dwell on our own position. We are not ready to give and take. We are not open-minded. So this kind of political mentality is part of our political culture. Due to this reason, there are extremist forces, ethnic extremist forces, religious extremist forces in Ethiopia. But this extremism is not only, it is not only due to the internal factors that we are in. There are also forces. For instance, ethnic extremism can be partly explained through the influence of the socialist ideology, which is very much have been the case during the Dark Region. So specifically in some literature, it is mentioned that modern education and with that socialist ideology, socialist baggage had contributed for the issue of nationality question in Ethiopia, which is part of this extremist ethnic political forces that we have. And as far as religion is concerned, there are religious extremist views in Ethiopia, and this is also partly explained through external forces. Take, for instance, in Ethiopia, since the 1991, the change of regime and the religio pluralist policy of the state, many new interpretations of religion came into being in Ethiopia. So the Islamic reform movements, for instance, are due to they become part and parcel of the Ethiopian religious environment, specifically among Muslims, and that has created a new debate between the different groups among Islam. So this is part and parcel of the communication and the technology revolution and the coming of new interpretations of religion, both the belief and practice of religion in Ethiopia. There are also, from other side, there are also extremist religious views in Ethiopia. There are some who claim that Ethiopia is, the one nation, one religion, one Ethiopian ideology is still there in Ethiopia. There are people who believe in this. Ethiopia is, they claim even Ethiopia is a Christian island, you see. These kinds of views are very much extreme and cannot be, accepted. So these kinds of extremist ideas are part and parcel of our political environment for long. And I think the national dialogue will help in at least, taming these kinds of extremist ideas and positions.
The issue of constitutionalism is said to be one major or among the major problems in Ethiopian politics. Do you think that we have political culture of abiding by the constitution of the land? And do you think that political parties and the citizens respect the constitution?
Yeah, this is what I think a very good question to discuss about. Because in Ethiopia has a history of constitution, but not constitutionalism. Because constitutionalism is not about the mere existence of constitutions. We used to have constitutions in 1931, 55, and 87, 1995. So there is no shortage of constitutions, but there is this problem of, the lack of constitutionalism. Because constitutionalism demands the government, demands the existence of, rule of law, which also demands both the people and the governor and the governor to be abided by the constitution. So for the constitutionalism to exist, there must be constitution. So this is not the case in Ethiopia. So the question is, we are now on, political reform, and there are good signs that the government will be ready in having a constitution that represents the different political forces of Ethiopia, a kind of political, not perfect consensus, rather a kind of consensus that represents the diverse political positions in Ethiopia.
The problem of a single story narrative which promotes one side and demonizes the other side is said to be among causing sustained disagreements among Ethiopians. What is the danger of the single story narrative?
This single story narrative is part, and I think for me it is part of being extremist. So if you are not ready to hear from other positions, for me it is just being an extreme. So single story narrative is not helpful. In Ethiopian history, we have, we had times of peace and times of war. In the past, there were wars, there were peaceful cooperations among peoples, the different peoples of Ethiopia. So I think we need to look forward. We need to look forward. Our principle should be, forward. We have to look forward and focus on what kind of Ethiopia should be there. We need to work on, future Ethiopia, the future Ethiopia, which is the Ethiopia for all, which is not the Ethiopia for one ethnic group or the other ethnic group, one religion or the other religion. An Ethiopia that is, a state for all, and a state for ethnic groups, a state for all religious groups. That is important. If we fail to achieve this, still, the politics of winners will not help us, and the very existence of Ethiopia will be jeopardized. So single story narratives are part and parcel of this being an extremist, and we need to struggle. We need to struggle. We have to convince. We have to win these people so that they can be, they can also be ready to hear from others, the positions of others, the suffering of others. So for a Muslim, for instance, there are sufferings. For the Christian, for instance, there are sufferings. For one ethnic group, there are sufferings. The other also, they do have their own sufferings. We need to share our sufferings. We need to share between our pains. So we have to be ready to hear from others so that we can have, a kind of, political arrangement that will, at least accommodate our major interests in it.
Doctor, now I want to ask you some questions about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in relation to legal framework.
Yeah.
And the point of view of legal frameworks.
Yeah.
The first question that I want to ask you is, how do you see the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in relation to Ethiopia's legal rights to use its own water resource?
Yeah, for sure, it's not something difficult to understand this. Ethiopia has a full legal right to exploit, to develop its natural resources, including its water resources. So from international legal perspective, international law perspective, Ethiopia is, it is legally entitled to work on its natural resources. So it's not something difficult. The positions taken by other riparian countries in this regard is not, holding water. So Ethiopia is rightful in this regard. So there is no doubt about it.
Many Ethiopians think that this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is a pride for Ethiopians, or it is a national pride. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because, if you ask any Ethiopian citizen, what do you think about GERD? The answer is positive. So despite having, differences on different political issues of the state, we are on the same paper as far as GERD is concerned. So it is a national pride. We all contribute, whether we like it or not, we contribute. So you see, we share, we give from our money. We contribute to it in one way or another. The poor, the rich, the young, the elderly, everybody contributes. So it is natural to be proud of this GERD, and GERD to become a national pride for the Ethiopian citizen. Ask everybody will agree on that. So GERD, I feel positive when you mention GERD. Why? Because I was part of the process. At least I have contributed from my salary, at least. So that will for sure makes it a national pride. Plus, it is a symbol of unity for me. It is a symbol of unity because GERD is not for one ethnic group. GERD is not a dam for one religious group. So from all segments of society, we all participated. So it is a national symbol. It is a national pride.
Ethiopia is one of the least countries, even in Africa, in accessing electricity to its citizens, where only 30% of its population has access to electricity.
Yeah.
So how significant is Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in addressing this problem?
Yeah, the impact is huge, not only in the electrification of the Ethiopian state. So it has many different positive results. The national this JERT is not only helping access in expanding access to electricity to the Ethiopian people. By itself, it has as I already mentioned, it is a national symbol. Other than its economic importance, it is it gives us the sense that we can do all our natural resources by cooperating without taking any penny from other states of the world. We can develop by our own selves. This is, for me, the most important thing. And the other specific benefits of the JERT will come later. Like you mentioned, the electrification of the state is important because many Ethiopian mothers are suffering from baking their traditional injera. They are suffering. It took hours and hours to feed woods, and even it has also its implication on access to education. So we cannot fully mention all the benefits that JERT will have, but generally it will definitely have a huge impact on the economy, and it also serve as a uniting force at the national level.
Several findings even demonstrate that GERD has potential benefit for Egypt. What is your view on this? And what caused Egypt to fear that GERD hurts riparian countries?
Yeah.
Do you think that it is logical to fear that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam hurt the lower riparian countries?
Egypt's position on Nile is very much, resides on the colonialist agreement signed by not even as Egypt, but as a protectorate by the British. So it was actually a colonial agreement that the British had made with Ethiopia, British Egypt. So Egypt at the time was not independent even. So taking this into account, it's not difficult to understand their position. Saying this, Egypt's position on Nile is not a genuine claim. Why? Because if some experts have the data on that, Egypt is in a better position than Ethiopia as far as water resources are concerned. Ours is only, Ethiopia's water resources are basically rain sources. The source is rain. But Egypt is rich in underground water. Egypt has access to the sea. We don't have access to the sea. Egypt has, a huge potential in developing underground water. Its underground water reserve is much better than Ethiopia. We don't have that much underground water reserve. So if it is not a genuine demand on the side of Egypt, but it is, as you already mentioned, they have this, this superiority mentality and dominating the Nile, as it had done in the past. So Egypt's concern is not only water. Egypt's concern is dominating the Nile River and, outcrying as if Nile, dwelling on this saying, Egypt is a gift of Nile, but Egypt is not only the gift of Nile. Egypt has many other sources of water than the Nile, but the Nile is the one of the major water sources for us. We are poor. We need to develop our service. Many people are suffering from poverty in Ethiopia. So the position taken by Egypt is something which is, from moral perspective, it's not moral, and from political perspective, it is just a position taken by Egypt in being a dominant state in the northeastern Africa. And Egypt's worry is not about Nile. Egypt's worry is about, if Ethiopia has the chance to develop its own natural resources, Ethiopia's position will definitely be changed, both at the international level and at continental level. I think that is at stake also. Egypt's position taken on Jet is not basically a genuine claim. That's why I already mentioned that there are other factors that makes Egypt against Jet. Technically speaking, engineers or experts on the issue can talk more about it, but it can be surely argued that Jet has a benefit, at least to balance the flow of Nile, because sometimes when it is rainy, when during rainy season in Ethiopia, there is this risk of flooding in South Sudan and in Sudan and Egypt. So it will have this, it will help to curb this unexpected flooding in Egypt and Sudan. And they know it. It happened once, even in Sudan, when Khartoum was flooded by a huge, flood. So there are these, potentials that JED will provide for Sudan and Egypt. So basically, the worry is unfounded for me. The worry of Egypt is unfounded, and we can still discuss on the flow of water from Jet. But Egypt's position on Jet, as already mentioned, is just to dominate. So there should be a new agreement between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan, and other riparian countries on equity basis. We are sharing the largest share. We are contributing the largest share for Nile, but we are using little. So this must be changed. And other riparian countries, there are issues of politics. Egypt's diplomacy is a strong diplomacy that works on taking riparian states to their side. So Ethiopia should also work on this, and I think the government is working on that, and I think it will be fruitful so that we can have equitable. We need to have an agreement which is based on equity, so that every riparian country will have its own share and will also cooperate on the Nile River.
Great. My final question about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is, do you believe that Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, and other concerning bodies failed to negotiate on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
Yeah, the issue of Nile is not only the issue of Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, and other riparian countries. I think there are also forces, international forces, that are very much interested about the issue of Nile. So we have to look it from this perspective also. Superpowers, the Americans, and many other states, Russia, many other states are also interested on the issue of Nile. So there is this possibility to reach an agreement on Nile. I think the door is not yet closed. But still, there are challenges. The Arab countries are also interested on the issue of Nile. So it cannot be seen in isolation from the geopolitical context of the region. The geopolitical context of the region demands to see it from different vantage points. So it is not only a matter of power, a matter of water. It is also a matter of geopolitics. It's a matter of competition between and among superpowers over the region. also Arab states have their own interests on the Horn. So this is, I think, not an issue of water only. So there is a possibility to arrive at, to reach at agreement, but we need to see what kind of political, calculations will be there behind.
Have you got any final message before winding up this session, Doctor?
Yeah, my final message is on the national dialogue. As I already mentioned, this is, I think, one of this kind in Ethiopian history, and we need to contribute in one way or another, through different ways to make it a successful endeavor. And I think these kinds of discussions must be continued. Many, your media is doing this, and this is I think we need to appreciate that, and other media outlets should also follow CU because the role of the media is an important element on in making this successful. So I don't see such much discussion on the national dialogue. So other than some news or other some short message, I don't see like extensive programs like this. So we need to have, even there must be a program, a weekly or I don't know, monthly program on the national dialogue. So this is what I have found out.
Dr. Yasin Hussein, Assistant Professor of Federalism and Governance at University of Arba Minch, thank you for your precious time and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Fantaun. Thank you.
Dear our esteemed viewers, this is the end of our discussion with Dr. Yasin Hussein. Thank you for watching and have a blessed time.